Greetings, friends, and welcome back to the 3 Minute Horror Show. Today I'll be interviewing director, writer, actor, producer, and pretty much every other job you can do around a movie set, Brandon Rhiness. Brandon has been working in the entertainment industry for 25 years now, and I'm excited to have him here with me. Brandon, welcome. Thanks for
Hi,
being here.
thanks for having me on the show.
All right, anytime. You can come back anytime you want as well. Brandon, would you like to give the audience a quick background on yourself?
Well, basically, I've been writing ever since I was a little kid. Uh, at some point, kind of around high school age, I decided I wanted to be a filmmaker. So I never took it seriously. Like my friends and I would make these really crappy short films, and this is kind of internet was just starting. There's no YouTube or anything, so we would basically just show them like on our local cable access station and other stuff. And even throughout my 20s, I made a feature film with some friends, and I never really took it as a job. It was just something I did on the side. I didn't put that much effort into it. It was always something like I wanted to do. I just for some reason either didn't think I had it within myself to make it really happen, or it was just a pipe dream. And it wasn't until like the early 2000s where I started writing and like publishing my own comic books, and they started, they were kind of popular, and I was like, oh, you know what? Maybe I could, screenwriting. That's something I've always kind of dabbled in, but it'd probably been like 10 years since I'd actually written a script. So I was like, now that I'm older and, theoretically wiser and everything and things are going better, maybe I should try that. So I started writing scripts and then I started optioning and selling a few and they were, turned into short films and stuff. And so I was like, well, what? I used to dabble in the filmmaking. Maybe I could take that seriously. So I made a couple like short films. And then soon after in 2015, I got laid off from my day job. And I was
Oh,
like, oh shit. And it was kind of like a crossroads, and I had enough like unemployment insurance to live on for like 6 months or so. So I was like, what if I just took this opportunity to like make this real? Like, what if I just instead of working full time and then just doing creative stuff here and there, what if I just spent all my waking hours doing the creative stuff? So I started doing that. I started writing way more, and and next thing you know, I was like making more films, and I was selling more films, and I was actually starting to make a living at it. And my theory was like I can always get another crappy job I hate if I run out of money. I'm like I'll just take it a month at a time and just try to make enough money to pay rent and bills for one more month and then one more month and one more and here we are 10 years later and I'm still taking it a month at a time, but I've built up this stuff and I'm actually known as a filmmaker and I'm
yeah.
able to get things made and it's going pretty well, and basically I'm living the dream that I've wanted to do ever since I was a kid. So
And you've
yeah.
never had to go back and do the day job bit again?
I did like for
Yeah,
minor times. Like there'd be times where it's like, especially when we're making a movie and I'm spending crazy money,
yeah.
where it's like, oh crap, there's gonna be something money coming in late or I miscalculated and it's like shit, I don't have enough for rent. So I'll go out and get a job and basically I work just wherever I could for like a month or so.
Mhm.
Usually not even that, and then I just couldn't take it anymore. And once things were back, I jumped back in. So I had a couple times where I had to cheat a little bit, so I can't claim that it's. But whatever. A lot of creative people have to work a full-time job to make it
They do,
happen,
yeah.
and I've been you know it's just it's like almost like you can't go back to it, right? Like once especially just the amount of things I write, the amount of things I'm working on. If all of a sudden I got a day job, man, I'm exhausted at the end of the day. And then when I finally have a weekend, it's like, well, I don't want to have to work long ass days doing create. I want to relax, right? And
Yeah,
all of a sudden, it's like you don't have the time to do the creative stuff anymore. And then the easy paycheck kind of just becomes alluring. And then you just don't do it anymore. And it's like, I don't want to be in that boat
yeah, for
if
sure.
I can avoid it.
You've been making movies since 2000, give or take. What did you draw inspiration from as a kid? What sort of movies did you like?
I was always big into Star Wars. Like my very first stories, like I was like, I don't know, however old you are when you're first able to like write words.
Yeah.
That's like how old I was. I would write these Star Wars stories that would be like 5 sentences, and I remember I used to like, set goals. Like this next one's going to be 8, right? I remember I was just slowly working my way to making it a page long, and I remember kindergarten or whatever I was. I remember I finally made a Star Wars story that was a full page. Probably double spaced, huge letters, right? It was probably 10 sentences long. But I was like, whoa, it was like a milestone. And I remember in grade 3, I wrote a an Ewok story that was like 2 or 3 pages that I thought was like super cool. So I was into that. I was always into like RoboCop and stuff. I was into comic books, superheroes. Like a little bit older, I was into like Predator and like
Mhm.
all the cool stuff that everyone's into. Um,
Were you a
I
kid that
never
watched RoboCop way too early, like I was?
Yeah, probably. I think it was a censored version. I think it might have been
Oh,
recorded from TV. So I probably watched a censored one,
yeah.
but whatever. It was, Indiana Jones, things
Mhm.
like that. That just kind of, funny. I didn't really get in. I didn't want to really be a filmmaker till I was older, probably, like later in high school. But I always wrote short stories and comic books, and at that age, like I don't think I really thought much that like writing screenplays is different than writing books. Like those are kind of different industries. It was like make up stories, write them down. Some of them were like half comic books. Like I would write and then I would get bored of writing, so I'd like draw a few pictures and then write some more. And so it was just kind of like creating stuff. And then as I got older and realized kind of how things work, I would focus on one industry or the other.
So what was Kid Brandon like? So what were you like when you were a kid?
I would think I was pretty shy.
Yeah.
I remember like going. I was in French immersion. I was basically in French school, in an like French class in an English school. So whoever was in my class, like, we had like one class of like started with like maybe 25 kids, and it slowly whittled down to like 8 by the time I was in junior high. So I was kind of like a little bit of an outcast because all the cool kids were not in our class. They were in the English speaking, and so I was not a popular kid. I was also into geeky kind of things. Like I wasn't really bullied that much or anything. It wasn't like a bad childhood, but I mostly kept to myself, and I'm still the way today. Like anywhere I am, like if there's something I don't want to do, like school or work, like working a day job, I basically just sit there staring at the clock, waiting for it to be done so I can get home and do the stuff I should be doing.
Yeah.
And school was like that, right? At least now I get paid for doing a job, and if I do it my own choice. But in school, like you have to go, and I would just hate every second of it. I would just sit there waiting until I could eventually go home, and then I could watch movies and write stuff and read comics and daydream and all the cool stuff that I do for a living today.
Yeah. Solidarity for French immersion kids. I did the same thing. So
Oh, okay, yeah. So you know what it's like.
and it's the same experience. It started off with a certain amount of kids in the class and it got slowly whittled down over the years.
Yeah,
So how did you get your start making the movies? How did you make the jump to actually becoming a filmmaker?
it was in. I think it was grade 12. Might have been grade 11 or 12. I watched Reservoir Dogs, and probably like everyone from every filmmaker from that generation, hugely inspired by Tarantino. Something just clicked when I saw that movie. I've watched that one, and then I watched Leon the Professional,
Okay, yeah.
with Jean Reno. I watched that, and something between those two movies, something clicked, and I was like, I should make movies. And I remember I told my parents, like at supper that day, I was like, "Oh, I'm gonna be a filmmaker," and they were kind of like, "Sure, good luck." I could tell they've always been supportive, but they
Mm,
weren't exactly, it was kind of like, what do you want to be next, a rock star, an astronaut, like whatever,
yeah.
So I was kind of like, I obviously had no money, no resources, and this is before phones that had cameras on them, and before internet, or before ubiquitous internet. And so I went and I volunteered at the local community TV station in Wetaskiwin where I grew up. And basically, like I would go out and film local events like hockey games or other, local stuff. In exchange, they let me use the video camera whenever it wasn't in use.
Hmm,
So I would take it. Me and my friends would go out and make really bad short films. And like at the time, I didn't even know what editing was for the most part. Like it was like a VHS camera,
yeah.
and we would just like record a take, press stop, and if it didn't work, we'd rewind it and go again, and then we would just pause it, and then be like, okay, next shot, move in for close up, and then be like, action, hit record, and we basically make a movie in the camera. Of course, it doesn't work very well, and they were terrible. And then I realized like, oh, at the TV station they had an editing suite. So I taught myself how to edit like
Wow.
one VHS tape to another, and I actually got fairly proficient at it. And eventually, like after I graduated, I went to college. I went to NAIT, the Northern Alberta Institute of Technology, and I went to like TV school, basically learn how to work in the TV industry. And that was kind of right when digital editing came out, which is, like Adobe Premiere, that kind of thing.
Mhm.
So I started learning that, and I already had a background in editing, so that's kind of where it came from. And then I would always, wherever I was, I would somehow meet other creative people. It's like, hey, you're into filmmaking, so am I. Let's make something together. And then we would make something and it was terrible and yeah, it went on. So like technically, I think like really my first movie was probably like 97, like where we would just screw around with the camera.
Hmm.
My first credit on IMDb is 2000. I've tried to take that one off of there, but they refused
Oh,
to like delete it because it doesn't really exist. Like I have a copy on a hard drive somewhere. It's just really bad. Like my real start it was like 2015.
okay.
Yeah.
All right, I gotcha.
Before that was kind of like, you know, it'd be like practicing guitar before your first album comes out.
Yeah.
So it's like doesn't really count. Even if you recorded some stuff, like it doesn't really count, you know?
Mhm. So you're also a comic book writer, as we established earlier. Tell us about your comic books, about your comic book career.
Yeah, it was I've always been into comic books and I started yeah, like probably 2012. That was kind of where Higher Universe started. It started like my company started as comic books. And I can't draw at all, but my one of my good friends, Adam Chuck, when I met him, he was a good drawer, so he would draw these characters and come up with basic stories for them, and I would write scripts about them. And then after a while, I was like, you know what, like let's turn this into something. So I would write a script for a comic book, and then we would just go online and like Fiverr or whatever and find comic book artists. They would draw the pages. I was still working my day job at this point
Hmm.
and we would just do like few pages at a time and I had to like learn from the ground up how to make a comic book, like get someone to pencil it, someone to ink it, someone to color it, someone to put the word balloons on it. And once we got it all finished, I would have them printed and then we would just start selling them. And we kind of had a novel way too because my buddy Adam works in bars,
Yeah.
so he would just take a stack of them, and then just after he got off work, he'd just be sitting around, hanging out at the bar drinking and chatting with people. And oh, so what do you do? And then he's like, yeah, yeah, we make comic books. He's like, you want to buy one, $10? And they'd be like, sure, buy one. So he would sell out a stack of them, and he'd come home with like $150 or
Oh,
something.
wow.
And then it's like, oh, shoot, that's enough to do like another few pages. And then we would do that, and then we started having like more multiple comics coming out, and then we were selling them online too, and then we was kept reinvesting the money and until we had a bit of a bit of a following. And kind of ever since I started doing the movies, the comic books like I can only be spread so thin and it's
Yeah.
all expensive, so I haven't really been working on it. And also like we had one of my sci-fi comics was called Stargirl. And
Hmm.
Stargirl's always been a DC Comics
Yep.
character, but in the time since that came out, there was the popular DC TV show Stargirl.
Yep.
So now all of a sudden it's like, well, crap, now there's confusion over it. And I have another monster series called Ghoul Squad, but now there's other things called Ghoul Squad.
Hmm.
So I was like, I want to revamp all my comics, but I'm probably going to have to change the titles and rebrand. I had a comic called Chainsaw Reindeer. It was like a horror comic about a killer reindeer with a chainsaw, one of
Yeah.
Santa's reindeer snaps. That one actually got picked up by like an international publisher, and it was available
Oh,
like
wow.
in comic stores all over the world. So that got me a lot of attention. The company has since folded, so I guess I technically have the rights to it back. So I've been thinking about putting that out there again and kind of giving it a second life. But again, it's just like I'm working on so many things that I kind of got to decide where to put my energy.
You got two I'm Haunted movies that came out today.
I do, yeah. The part 4 and 5, yeah,
Yeah. All right, we'll talk about those a little bit later.
yeah, sure.
So, how did you opened up your own publishing house called Higher Universe, as we've established. How do you go about opening a publishing house?
I honestly, I don't know. I just did it my way. I don't know how other people do it. I just kind of every step was out of necessity. It's like, how do we do the next thing here? So I'd kind of do some online research and kind of but mostly figured it out my way and then just took it one step at a time. And then, I incorporated the company. So it's like an official, incorporated business. And then I would just figure out ways to do it. And I've always found that like a lot of the advice and things like I don't want to be a business person. I hate running a business. I wish
Hmm.
I didn't have to do it. I'm more interested in the creative stuff. So I try to keep the business stuff to as little as possible. And a lot of the advice you find online, it just takes so much work and you need so many employees. And I'm like, I kind of want to just get rid of all that and just focus on the fun stuff and keep the business stuff to a minimum.
Yeah.
But I found ways to like generate money and to kind of keep the whole operation going. But I just found that like, I'd ask other people like, how do you do it? And then it's like, yeah, okay, like that might work for you. That's not going to work for me. So I would just figure out how to do it. It's like I would make this thing, whether it's a film or a book or a comic book, and then it's like, how do you sell it? I'll try Amazon, I'll try other places, I'll try promoting it, and I'll try setting up a table somewhere, kind of see what works and do more of what works and less of what doesn't, um, and then just somehow I've kind of figured out a fairly efficient system of getting it done.
So we talked about some of the titles that you've published under Higher Universe. And so they're kind of taking a back burner right now because of the movies. Are you publishing other comic book writers' titles through Higher Universe as well?
Not really. I don't think
No.
I've done that. They're all written by me. They're drawn by other people,
Yeah.
but they're all like created by either myself or Adam Storrs Chuck, and all written by me. I think I had a 3-page comic, like a backup story written by someone else, possibly. I might have done that with because sometimes like our artists they want to write something, so I'll do it as a favor. But pretty
Yeah.
much it's all created by me.
Excellent. You've written a lot of screenplays, shorts and features, and you've explored many different genres. What's your favorite type of story to write?
Again, like horror and comedy are my favorites to write. Um, I guess it kind of switches back and forth, which is my most favorite. Like most things I write are horror, but a lot of it has comedy elements.
Yeah.
But I've written some comedy stuff too that people seem to like, so I think I have a knack for both of them.
Do you prefer shorts or full features?
Uh, I like them both for different reasons, but if I had to pick, I'd say features. You just have more time to tell the story when it's a short. And it's funny with shorts, like I'll write something that's 15 pages, and then then I'll meet like a producer or director that's like, "Oh, I like that story. How long is it?" I'll be like 15 pages, and they're like, "Ooh, we could do 5 minutes max." And it's like,
Oh,
well,
wow.
and I'm like, "Well, okay, well that's not going to fit then, right?" And and it's just like, how good of a story can you tell in 5 minutes? Sometimes you can, but I just hate having those constraints where it's like when it comes to a feature, it's like you just have a lot more time to play with, and you're still constrained by a page time limit, but there's just more room to get into it.
Yeah. Yeah. So tell us about one of the stories you've written that meant something real to you, that came from deep down.
I don't know. I don't know if it really came from deep down, but I'd have to say when I was in grade 4, I wrote this short story. Because I had this dream that I was kidnapped. I was kidnapped and like I was held hostage in this high rise, and I had to escape by climbing out the window. And when I woke up, I was like, "Well, that was a cool dream." So I was like, "I should write that as a story." So I wrote it like from part of it was first. It kind of shifted between first person and third because I wasn't that good of a writer. But I wrote it basically based on myself, and it was called Nod Narb, which is Brandon backwards. So that
Oh,
was the
okay.
character. And I remember I was in school. I don't know if anyone's ever done that, where you put your textbook like facing up so you can like hide what you're doing behind it. So I was sitting there writing the story, and then the teacher would come walking by, so I would close my notebook and pretend to do whatever I was supposed to be doing. And I wrote this entire story. And the next day, I asked my English teacher if I could read it to the class. And I'd never shown my work to like anyone before. Like maybe my brother had read it, maybe my parents, but basically, like I don't know if anyone even knew that I was like a writer. It was just something I did privately. So I read it to the class, and
Mhm.
then everyone just kind of like erupted in applause,
Oh, wow.
and I was like, whoa. And then I was like, super popular for the next like 2 hours. And everyone's like, well, you should write a part two. And that's kind of like where something clicked, where I was like, hey, like other people like things that I write. So basically that moment was probably one of the most important moments of my life, because that's when I realized like I could do this instead of this
Mhm.
being a hobby, like, you know, whatever, doing stuff by yourself. Like this is something that I could share with other people and, possibly make money at. So that's kind of a very important story that I wrote, probably more so than any other, even though the story itself, I mean, I was what, 9 or something when I wrote it,
Yeah,
so wasn't very good, but it did have an impact on my career.
absolutely. And just so you know, there are other people that have done that too. I had been known to have my textbook up here and have an X-Men comic down here.
Yeah, yeah. I don't know if kids still do that these days, but
No,
I'm
now they have
sure.
their phones.
Yeah.
So, what's the favorite project that you've ever worked on as a director, writer, or in comic books? And if you're feeling spicy, you can give me all three.
Oh, I don't know if I'm feeling spicy, but I would have to say probably Grotesque. Like I like every
Yeah.
project I do, but Grotesque, it turned out so well People love it. It was so much fun, and it was a lot bigger in scope than other things we'd done.
Yeah.
Like Hot Box, which was the movie we did before. It had a lot of people. It had a huge cast, but it was all in one house. Grotesque, we had like friggin' 30 some locations. Like it was just, and we had, effects, and like it was just, there was a lot more to it. And also just dealing with COVID, right? Like we shot for one day and then COVID restrictions hit. So basically we had to postpone it for like a year, and it threw everything into chaos, and it would have been easy, and it came close to just not even getting done. It was just our team, I guess, had the perseverance to just make sure we followed through with it, and we ended up getting finished. So I
Hmm.
think, yeah, that's probably my favorite project.
It's interesting because I never would have, I'd never put it together that you were filming that during COVID too.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. There's one scene where Dr. Wash, right before he gets mutilated,
Hmm.
there's a scene where he's like with his wife and kid in the car outside a
Yeah.
gas station. And if you look in the background, you see someone walking by with a mask,
Oh,
like a
interesting.
COVID mask. Other
Yeah.
than that, we did our best because we didn't want to date the movie by having
Yeah.
everyone wearing masks. So we tried to make sure that like nobody was seen with one, but yeah,
Hmm.
people wouldn't really know unless you looked at the release dates or the schedule. But yeah,
Yeah.
you wouldn't otherwise you wouldn't know.
COVID movies, and I don't want to make any sort of political statement on COVID itself or anything like that, blah blah blah. Uh, they things made during COVID have such a strange feel to them. They have it's like an unnatural feeling. Like
Yeah,
it's odd and it's traumatic for some people to try and bring that back. Even now, like I watched a movie that came out in 2024 that was must have been filmed during lockdown because it was all about lockdown and it just felt so weird. And everyone's
yeah.
filming themselves and
I think at the time it was like, hey, we're going through this. Let's make a movie about it.
yeah.
And hey, we're locked in our houses, so let's just film ourselves and make a movie based on that. Not
Hmm.
realizing that once we all come out of it, it's like, man, I don't want to watch a movie about that. Like,
Yeah.
it'd be like if I just spent, a few years in prison, I don't want to watch a movie about prison.
Yeah.
It's
That
like
was a drag. It
I
sucked.
want something out of it. And yeah, it's weird. Even now, I'll watch like like wrestling or a UFC fight or something
Hmm.
on YouTube,
Yeah.
and it's something that came out during COVID, and there's like no one in the crowd, and it's just
Yeah.
like silent, and it's like, whoa, that's kind of weird.
Yeah. Yeah, for sure. We've established that you're a talented creator in various formats. What's your favorite medium to work in? Comics, screenplays, or is there something else that we haven't talked about yet?
Ugh, like I like them again. I like them all for different reasons.
Yeah.
I think like the most fun. Yeah, I think writing the screenplay is fun because there's nothing standing in my way. Like I can write whatever I want, big budget, small budget. It could be good or bad. No one's looking over my shoulder. I could just be creative and do something that I'm, I think pretty good at. As soon as it's like, okay, now we're turning this into a movie. Okay, well now is when you face all the hurdles, right? Like no one can stop you from writing a screenplay. As soon as it's like, hey, we got to make this, all of a sudden, you know what? We can't afford to do this. We have to change that. We can't get this thing or that place, and everything that you wrote all of a sudden costs money, and you have to come up with that money somehow. And it is filmmaking's fun and rewarding in a different way, but it's just kind of stressful. Whereas screenwriting, that's when it's like, you know what? It's just me alone with my creativity, and I really love that process.
So I first saw your work watching the Azera and Gore Girl anthology of horror shorts. I was quite impressed with how clever those stories were, and in particular the soccer mom short starring Julie Wellen. Can you tell us about that one?
Yeah, that was just like an idea. I have this big list of just kind of random ideas I have down, and every time I want to make something new, I'll go back to my list and see if anything catches my eye. And some of them are short, some of them are features. And Soccer Mom was one of them. I just had this idea about just like a happy soccer mom who was like some kind of killer. That was kind of the basic premise. And that's I can't remember exactly what I was thinking when I wrote it, but somehow that what you see in the movie is what I ended up coming up with. And of course, Julie is like absolutely perfect
Yeah.
for that role, just because she's talented and she could play like the crazy killer and the you know overly like toxically happy mom basically. So yeah, that one was fun. That might be one of the more popular ones in that movie.
Yeah, for sure. And I've noticed that you tend to work with an established crew of performers on many of your films, notably Julie Wellen, who we just spoke about, and Elizabeth Chamberlain. How did you meet up with these guys?
With for Julie, um I was making actually one of the shorts that was in the Ezra and Gore Girl horror anthology. It was called The Painting of Ebony Shaw. It was the very first one.
Yeah.
I was looking for a cast for that, and I was talking with Jarvis Griner, who's a filmmaker here in Edmonton. He made the movie John 3:16 that I wrote the script for, and he wrote Markings of Murder. He's like an award-winning filmmaker. And I can't remember if I was looking for someone to cast, but he's the one that suggested, like, hey, I just he finished filming a TV episode or something with Julie Whalen, and she's a really good actor, so you should give her a shot. So I cast her in the Painting of Ebony Shaw. I think she had one word. She said one word in the movie. But that's the day I met her. And then she had a script of her own that she was producing called Hideaway. And the director had to back out for whatever reason. And she was like, "Oh, I remember that Brandon guy." So she approached me like, "Hey, do you want to direct my movie?"
Hmm.
So we ended up doing that together. She was the star, I was the director, so we kind of got to know each other a bit. And right after that, we started doing Hot Box, which was like my first really big feature film. And the producers and like on Hideaway, Julie not only was the star, but she was like producer, and she basically did like everything. Like she was
Wow.
so in control of everything and had everything organized. So I told the producers like this Julie Whalen is like amazing. We should try to get her on board Hot Box. And so I asked her, and she was kind of like I'll help out if I can, but I can't promise anything, because time commitments and stuff. But it's like, okay, we'll do what you can. And of course, she ended up just like taking control of the entire movie. Like I don't think we would have gotten it done without her. She's also in the movie. She played one of the one of the religious people in the movie. Um, and after that, all of a sudden, it was like we started doing one thing together and another thing together, and then we've been together ever since, working on projects. And
Wow.
Elizabeth, her first thing was technically what's considered my first movie is called Cold Comfort. For some reason, it's called The Project in the U.S.
Hmm.
for whatever reason. Wasn't my choice. But we were casting people for that, and she just showed up to an audition. We ended up casting her, and I didn't really know her that well at the point. Like she did her job and we kind of parted ways. But at some point she mentioned that she could dance. And then I was doing another short film called K Thanks Bye, where we needed someone in the background just to be doing like some kind of interpretive dance.
Hmm.
And I was like, hey, I remember that Elizabeth Chamberlain said she could dance. Let's ask her. So we asked her. So she was just in the background dancing. And I don't know if I even spoke to her on that shoot. But again, after that, we did Hotbox, and she auditioned again, and I was like, okay, well now I've met her a couple times, so she kind of and also partly we wanted she plays the other religious character opposite Julie,
Hmm.
and we wanted someone with a different hair color, and she had red hair. Not that that's the only reason we hired her, but that was just like a bonus, right? So we ended up casting her in Hotbox, and she played a bigger role there, and that's when I kind of actually started to sit down and have a conversation with her, get to know her, and then after that like I cast her in a few more things, and then like she's super super talented,
Oh yeah.
and like great to work with, and she's just like always willing to show up and do the work. So I was kind of like, why try someone new when we just have Elizabeth who's going to be awesome anyway? So I cast her in more things, and then all of a sudden Grotesque came out, which was like exploded in popularity.
Yeah.
So then not only was she one of my favorite people to work with, but she just had that little bit of star power too, right? Where
Yeah.
it's like she's Mildred, so it's like of course I'm gonna cast her and everything. And yeah, it would just feel weird to like not have her in a movie at this point.
Yeah. And I think you got lucky too, because it's like I think her star is just starting to take off now. So yeah, you got her early. You'll,
Yeah, yeah, it's great. Yeah, like now, like she just came back from the U.S. doing another film. Like she's flying everywhere. She's
Mhm.
doing it today. She sent us pictures. She's working on some other project where she has like a sword and stuff and is dressed up as
Yeah.
some kind of warrior. And it's like wow, it's like so like yeah, it's no surprise that she's doing as great as she is.
I like to consider what you're doing in Edmonton as kind of the natural evolution of regional horror. So, like what regional horror was back in the old days, where indie horror crews would make something in Pennsylvania and they just hire cast and crew from friends that lived around the area and they set their movies in the area. I kind of consider your movies the natural evolution of regional horror.
Yeah, I've heard other people say that too, and that's not something I really planned.
Hmm.
It's just like I do like my movies are usually set in Edmonton. but it makes sense. It's like I grew up here around this area. It's what I know. Everyone's from here.
Hmm.
It's like, why would I do it, but have it set in Chicago? Like, it doesn't make sense. Like,
Yeah.
I know sometimes, big movies and like Hollywood movies will be set in New York and they'll film in Vancouver just for money reasons. But it's like, what? This is our city. Why would we not film here? And I've had this argument with people, usually people that are like higher up in the industry, and they're like, you can't have a movie like it was set in Edmonton and it's like what? So like New York, LA, Chicago, those are the only places you can have movies set. Like
Yeah.
I don't if someone's liking the movie, they're not going to care where it is. They're not going to be loving the movie and then hear Edmonton mentioned and be like, "What? That's
Yeah.
a city that isn't like a major worldwide city. I'm going to stop watching." Like no one would ever do that.
Oh.
Most people don't notice or don't care. There's a lot of I mean, there's a famous movie and TV series from Fargo, North Dakota.
Hmm.
Like if you could have it from there, no one's going to care about that. But it's funny how like a lot of pushback I get. Um, even one of a movie I wrote called Core Values, directed by great filmmaker here in Edmonton, Gil Allen. And the movie turned out pretty well, but yeah, but for like I think he was just trying to get a better distribution deal or something. But he
Hmm.
wanted the movie set in the U.S. And I was like, why not Edmonton? And he's like, nah, I want it American. And so I was like, okay. So I think I set it in Idaho or something.
Yeah.
And he was like, why Idaho? I'm like, well, why not? Like if it's like it's American, that's what he wanted. Um, so I know, yeah, that it's just like if you're from the place, like
Yeah.
the guys making the zombie movies in Pittsburgh. It's like if you're from Pittsburgh and shooting a movie in Pittsburgh, have the movie take place there. Like show
Absolutely.
pride in your city and people are seeing something new. There's been enough movies that take place in LA that you really need another one, like unless you're
Yeah.
from there.
And
So
Grotesque is an Edmonton movie. Set in Edmonton. It'll put Edmonton on the map, I hope. So,
yeah, we mention it, and we even mention there's no rats in Alberta. We put in things like that are actually like people are quoting those lines or whatever, and it's like, hey, we're from there. I recognize those things in the background.
well. So what is the Edmonton underground horror scene like?
There's other people doing it. Obviously, like Skinamarink's probably the biggest one to come out of here.
Is
Um,
I didn't know Skinamarink was from Edmonton.
Yeah, from Edmonton. Yeah, some of our friends made that one.
Hmm.
That kind of blew up pretty huge. There's people like Steve Pace and Jarvis has made some. There are other horror movies being made here. It's just like the problem with everything. It's hard to get money. It's hard, and even when you do make it, it's hard to get it noticed because you're just one of thousands of films.
Hmm.
So it's nice to see Skinamarink, get broke out a little bit. Um, and honestly, even if there was no one else doing this, like I would just keep doing it myself. Other people kind of come and go. So there is a pretty good film community here, very tight knit. It's in a way it's kind of big, but it's also kind of small. But I've
Hmm.
heard that said about LA too, right? Like it's a huge
Yeah.
industry, but everyone kind of knows everyone.
Yeah.
It's the same here, right? And obviously, like I don't, there's not a lot of crossover with me because I'm like a filmmaker. Sometimes like I write things that other people make, but it's rare, almost never, that I'm on another set. But
Hmm.
like I always joke that it's like I don't even really know what a director does because I've never been on set with another director. I'm only ever on my own set. Whereas like actors will go and crew will go and work for different directors, but it's like I don't know how do I compare like how do other people do this? Like I don't know. I know how to do it my way, but I'm never really on other sets. So but yeah, there are other people in Edmonton making projects. And if you just go to like the YEG filmmakers group or other eminent filmmaking groups on Facebook, like you'll see that yeah, there's quite a bit of stuff going on. Um, so yeah, I hope it continues to grow and people just are able to continue making things.
Yeah. Well, you got to be doing something right as a director because you've got people that will continue to come back and work with you over and over
Yeah,
again.
that's what I tell them. It's just like I must be pretty good at it. Like people are watching my movies and stuff, and I can get the same people. I can see if like no one ever wanted to work with you a second time and you had to get a
Yeah.
new crew, then maybe you're not so good, but I guess people must like working with me and I like working with them. That's why we have the same team over and over again.
All right, let's talk a little bit about the Grotesque series. So there are a pair of movies with a third on the way that you directed and wrote. They focus on the wonderfully insane serial killer Mildred Moyer, whose brain was broken after years of mistreatment due to not fitting in with societal beauty standards. I love the first two. I love these movies. Can you give us some background on this concept? How did it come to be?
When it started out, it was in my big black book of ideas. the original concept, it was going to be a much older woman. It was going to be like a middle-aged woman who was, basically concerned that she was losing her looks and she
Mhm.
wanted to look younger. So she goes to a plastic surgeon. Somehow it gets botched and she's rendered hideous. So she goes around and starts killing like young, pretty models, basically. That was kind of like the one or two sentence idea I had. And when I started thinking about it, it was around that probably right after Hotbox, where I was thinking about like Elizabeth Chamberlain, and I was like, oh, like she could play the perfect killer, but it wouldn't make like the story doesn't make sense with her anymore because she was early 20s, like it just wouldn't make sense. So I was like, what if I changed it instead of her just worrying about aging? What if she's worried about a disfigurement? And then the story would work, but she'd be killing people that made fun of her or whatever. And then that's why I'm like, what if she had a gigantic nose? And I was like, okay, and that's how the story kind of came together. And originally, it was supposed to be like a serious story. If you
Mhm.
look at like we made a movie poster like before we filmed anything, but like we did an original trailer like for the movie. But if you look at the first poster, that's just her with like a bloody bandage on her face,
Mhm.
and you could tell just the vibe it gives off that it's much more horror. As soon as we actually started making it, then it became like the horror comedy that it is. Became
Yeah.
just had that element of camp to it.
And I think that's its biggest strength too. Like honestly, I think that if you had gone serious, I don't know if it would have made the waves that it has.
Yeah, I have to agree. I think it would just yeah, it would not have been as good. Mildred's character wouldn't have been able to shine in the same way if she was just serious.
Absolutely. So, what were the biggest hurdles that you had to overcome as a director in getting that made? Other than
Oh, it
COVID,
was
I guess.
yeah, COVID was a big one, but it was just like the money's always a thing, and then, like most people, like some of the core crew, we had to pay just to get the movie made, but pretty much all the cast and me and Elizabeth and Julie, my co-producer, like we were all volunteer. Like there's just no
Wow.
way. There was so many people working on it that even if we paid them like minimum wage, it would have cost like over $1 million. It's like we just don't have that kind of money.
Hmm.
So any money that we did have, we had to do through crowdfunding, people donating to us, or basically some of us and our parents and families funding it ourselves. We just had to struggle for every cent, and I remember we had like a little bit of money from like Hotbox or something, and Julie was the one that kind of came up with the idea that she's like, look, like we have enough to shoot for 2 days. Why don't we shoot for 2 days just to get it going? And if it takes us another year or 2 years to get more money, so be it. But we have to get started. If we're waiting around for the money, we'll be waiting forever.
Yeah.
And that's what we did. And of course, we shot for one day, and then it shut down because of COVID. But eventually, we were just kind of like, okay, we need to shoot another day, and we were kind of like making money as we go, or promoting the movie, and then someone would be like, well, I could donate $500, and it's like, okay, well, let's just get a little bit more. We'll have enough to do one more day, and we just kept having to like fight for a day at a time, which also meant we had to cram a lot more
Yeah.
into each day because we couldn't spend 30 days on it. I think we spent like 11 or something. So it's like we had to go so freaking fast. There was things like the scene where she goes to the salon and there's like a killing montage and
Yeah.
killing people in the salon. That was supposed to be done like at a different location. It was supposed to be done at a hair salon, but I think it was like the day before or the day of we're supposed to shoot there. All of a sudden they got cold feet and they're like, "Ooh, like we're worried about getting blood on the floor and blah blah blah."
Mm.
So we're like, "Oh shit! Like we're shooting the scene later today and we lost our location." So Julie and some people went out, found us a new location. So basically, I didn't even see what the location looked like until I arrived on set. And of course, it was
Wow.
completely different. So the shot
Yeah.
list didn't work. So I basically had to show up in a rush and completely rewrite the story as I'm going to work in this new place. And, worked out fairly well. I
Yeah.
was, even while we were filming, I was like, man, we're going to have to cut this scene because I don't know if it's going to work and just trying to do effects for the first time, right? Like we had Jamie
Yeah.
Clark, who's an awesome makeup artist, but she was like right out of school. And we had our director of photography, James Hastings. He knew a little bit about practical effects, but we were basically figuring it out as we went along. Like, how do you lop someone's head off? How do you drill someone's head? How do you
Yeah.
gouge someone's eyes out? And we were making this up like as we're doing it and trying to see what works while being rushed. And so part of it was like fun, but it was a hard, stressful process.
Was there always meant to be a sequel, or how did that come about?
there was not always meant to be a sequel. Obviously, like in the back of my mind, it's always a possibility because there's Freddy, Jason, Halloween
Yeah.
movies that so and I'm a big fan of those. So obviously, like the second I came up with the concept, it's in the back of your mind that hey, maybe we can make 12 of these. But I never really thought about it because who knows if the first one's gonna work. And the first one does wrap up nicely. Like it doesn't set itself up for a sequel. And actually, we had a hard time coming up with the idea for the
Yeah.
sequel because it's like Mildred's back to normal. Like, why would she need to go on another killing spree? She's all happy now. So yeah, it was something that came along after the popularity of the first one.
Do you have any fun behind the scenes stories from the making of either of the Grotesque movies? So we've heard about the stressful story about the set. Do you have any fun ones?
Yeah, I don't want to give the impression that it was like a negative experience. It was fun. Like it to this day, people still talk about making those movies like it's like a fond memory. Like a lot of friendships and relationships were formed. Like people even started dating after
Oh,
meeting
wow.
on those movies, and like that's why like everyone even in my circle, like as soon as I hinted at part three, right, I'm just bombarded with messages about when we're doing it, just because everyone wants to go through that again. But it was fun, like even just things like in the first movie, Elizabeth driving around between locations with a enormous nose, so she'd pull up next to people in cars and they'd be looking at her, and it's like, probably wondering what the hell's going on. And even there's just little things like even while we were filming part two, the scene where Ronald jumps off the church roof and lands on the big
Yeah.
spike, and then Julie's yelling at Elizabeth, and she's like, whatever her line was, like, "I'm gonna slice you open and bathe in your fucking guts."
Yeah.
Like we're not only yelling that right next to a church, but there was a daycare across the street,
Oh, wow.
and this is like this isn't like a on like a busy road where there's like 8 lanes of traffic. This is like a residential neighborhood. So they
Mhm.
were like right there. So we're like, okay, well, we have to be careful doing this and yelling this stuff. So we were trying to like block everything with cars, and we had, like big tarps or something, like trying to block it.
Did they get mad?
And they didn't know. I don't think they know. They never said
Okay.
anything.
Good.
Because when Julie yelled that line, she just mouthed it. She didn't actually say it. And
Okay.
then later on, at some point in like recording booth or whatever, she recorded that line and we added it in.
Ah,
But we did have to, that church was awesome for because we really pushed the limit of what we did in a church, right? It was did a lot of violent stuff. When it came to crucifying a guy,
yeah.
that's where they drew the line there. Because originally it was supposed to be he gets crucified at the front of the church, like he's lifted up on. We were gonna like have chains and rise him up, but they're like, nah, you can't do that. So we had to. That's why we went and shot that outside.
Yeah.
Um, but yeah, but for part two, like we rented a like a campground for a week, and we all stayed out there while we were doing it. So there was, between 20 and 100 people out there, probably
Wow.
depending on what time of day and what scenes we were doing. But um, it was fun because as an adult, there's not a lot of chances to go to summer camp and just be hanging out with your peers, right?
Yeah.
So we all got to stay there, and people like partied at night, and there was just like a lake there, and it was just like we just had a run of the place, and it was like so much fun. Like when
Oh,
it
yeah.
came time to leave, and everyone's like, "Oh, it's kind of like the dream's over, right? It's like back to real life now." And yeah, I think there's a lot of people that would love to do that again, and there's so many people that wish they had been there.
It wasn't the same camp that you used in the first movie, was it?
Oh, there are two different ones. Yeah.
Oh, okay. I wasn't sure. So, the lesson that I've taken away from both movies in the series so far is to be kind. Is that the intention, or was that the message with the grotesque films?
I think that's just something that came about by accident. Like I didn't intentionally put that in there. I try to actively avoid having a message in movies. Like I'm
Hmm.
not really political or anything. Like I kind of don't like that kind of stuff in movies. I think the point, at least the point of why I make them, is to get away from that stuff.
Hmm.
So I just make whatever kind of comes to mind, and I think a lot of time there ends up a message kind of seeps in. Even Elizabeth pointed something out that I didn't intend, but she's said it's kind of like a movie about like underdogs, right? It's like
Hmm.
the people at her work are like so mean, but then the homeless people there, they're willing to help her out and stuff, and then it's like, the guy who's getting chased by the law, he's willing to help her out. So it's all these people that are kind of the underdog, but they have this kind of network that's willing to help her along. And I was like,
Hmm.
oh, that's an interesting take on it. It's another thing that I didn't intend to be there. I like the fact that people are looking for something that like the movies there's a depth to the movie where there is a message in there, but it's probably more up to the an individual person to take
Yeah,
what they want from it rather than from me trying to tell people what to think.
right. And just you're just showing the fact that Mildred has a moral compass that's very strong.
Kinda, but
Kinda.
does she? I mean, she is kind of killing everyone that's even looked at her wrong. Um,
Yeah.
so it's kind of like, yeah, it's kind of like, is she a good guy? Is she? But you kind of cheer for her. But if this was real life, like she'd be
Yeah.
like an
Oh
evil
yeah.
person. So it's like it's kind of fun to think about because I think everyone has that, right? You want to just, violently attack anyone that pisses you off. You
Yeah.
you can't do that because you wind up in prison and you'd be psycho. But everyone thinks about that. So I think it's fun just to see someone be able to do that, just to lash out at everyone that's ever pissed them off, even going back to when you were kids. And I think part of the kind of like what I take out of the story is almost like when Mildred, like once she gets on the right path and starts doing what she's always been meant to do, everything starts working out for her, even to the point of like, hey, what are the odds there being axe right here? It's kind of like as soon as she's doing what she's meant to do, it's like the universe just aligns to bring stuff to her.
Mhm.
When and originally she's not sticking up for herself, she's working
Yeah.
at a job she hates, and of course, like everything's just going bad. So it's kind of like if your life's going this terribly, like something's wrong, and you gotta like choose this new path to do. And once you do, like things will start going your way. There's some message like that. That's kind of what I take from it.
Yeah. And just to reiterate, Elizabeth, holy crap, what a talent. I don't think these movies would work without her. I've said it in both reviews so far.
Yeah, I don't. There wasn't like I started writing the movie with her in mind. Like obviously when the original concept was before I even met her, but once I started writing it, I had her in my imagining it, and yeah, like it would be very hard for someone else to do that. Like she just like it's hard to describe. I mean, anyone who's seen it will know what it means, but she's kind of like menacing and intimidating at the same time as being very likable and fun. And a
Hmm.
lot of the time, even when she's killing people, she's still being really kind to them, right? She's
Yeah.
being nice to them while she's like horribly butchering them um and she does have a moral compass. Like there's times, in part two where she'll be like it's like, whatever she says, like I may kill people, but I she's like I don't lie and I don't steal or
Hmm.
whatever she says. So she has some kind of warped, twisted sense of morality, whether it's right or wrong. And it's also like one of the things I think that makes her funny and such a fun character. I got the idea from Kane Hodder, who plays
Yeah.
Jason in later Friday the 13th movies. He says that like he works on it that like Jason, he never looks down where he's walking. He never like stumbles. Like he's always like super tough, like no sign of weakness. He's just
Hmm.
coming after you. He'll bash through doors or whatever. I kind of did the opposite with Elizabeth.
Hmm.
It's like she's trying to run and look all cool, and then she like stumbles and falls, or she's trying to hide in a car to pop up, but they totally see her there, and they're like, "What are you doing?" And she's like, "Oh, I was gonna pop up and scare you." It's kind of like she's not that good at what she does. She's still trying to like learn it. So the
Hmm.
guy walks up and she's just like sitting underneath, trying to hide underneath a canoe, but you could totally see her there. So everything she does, like she's not perfect. Like she struggles with it and trying to get the chainsaw to work, and she's like, I don't know how to get it to work. So
Hmm.
she's not a perfect killing machine like Michael Myers or
Yeah.
Jason. And I think that gives her is that she does have faults and stuff, and it kind of makes it more fun.
I think so too. Did you learn any lessons making the first movie that you were able to apply to making the second movie?
Oh, absolutely. Like it just basically just doing it once and then replicating it while learning just how to make it work more efficiently. We just learned how to do the effects so much better. Just
Yeah.
Jamie Clark had that much more experience, and we just kind of knew things that worked or didn't work, and we had an even bigger cast and crew for the second one, and also just like meeting more people. It's like all of a sudden, once you've worked together once or multiple times, like we had, it just becomes like easier because it's like, a band playing together. Once you do it more, like you're just better at it. You better at, feeding off each other and everything. So I can't really think of any like specific lessons, but it was an easier shoot because we just it's kind of like we've done it before, so it was just that much more efficient.
Excellent. Now, without giving any spoilers away, Are you able to give any hints about what's coming in the third? Is Julie Wayland going to be playing another character, a third character?
Yeah, so far it's in the script. I'm not sure. I hope Julie and Elizabeth aren't mad if I'm for me giving this stuff away. Basically, we haven't like other than I made a post on
Yeah.
social media that hey, I finished the first draft of the Grotesque 3 script. That's basically where we're at. Julie and Elizabeth have read it. They've given me some notes and things that they think we should change. So I'm working on a new draft. Other than that, like no one knows about it. So if you're listening to this is like the first you're hearing about this before the main cast and crew, basically. But
Oh.
um, some of the details, but yeah, but basically Mildred comes back somehow,
Yeah.
and stuff happens, and basically she winds up she's like fed up with society, so she's out wandering and joins this like hippie colony.
Oh,
The
okay.
kind of like the Manson family. It starts off, it's all about love and peace, and they're just living off grid, and then of course turns out that they're maybe not the nicest people, and she finds a reason to go on another killing spree. That's the premise, basically.
Okay.
There's still a lot of things that are changing. We're adding and taking stuff out, and but that's kind of that's going to be the basic log line for the movie.
You're going to have to come up with a new part for Elizabeth and Julie to hit each other in at the end of this one.
That's actually been mentioned. We're quickly running out of body parts.
So, is it just me, or does Adam Keefe, who played Cornelius Spretzer in the second movie, look like 90s Lars Ulrich from Metallica?
Yeah, you mentioned that, and I can see it. I To me,
Yeah.
he reminds me of uh Jesse from Breaking Bad. With
Yeah, yeah, it kind of looks like that too, yeah.
yeah, he has that kind of look to him.
Hmm.
Yeah, he's a great actor too, and it's funny because he was in there's the horror movie called Dark Match that came out. It's like a
I
wrestling horror movie.
I've seen that too, yeah, with
Yeah,
Chris Jericho.
they shot
Yeah,
that in Edmonton, and he's at a part as a part in a wrestling match or whatever, and he's there. And it's funny, these people on Twitter were like, "Is that Cornelius Spretzer from Grotesque 2?" What's funny is Dark Match was a much bigger, bigger budget, more famous movie, but people
yeah,
recognize him as the guy from Grotesque. So I thought that was pretty great.
yeah, yeah, that's funny. So all in all, Grotesque, has the series been a good experience for you?
Oh yeah, absolutely. It's like it was like honestly part two, like it was so stressful. Like we finished what like a year or two ago. I think I'm still tired from it. Like
Yeah.
it took so much out of me, and that's why for like part three, it's like something's got to change, right? Because like even just like it's always hard coming up with the money, but I had to foot like a lot of the bill myself, and it's just like it's huge amounts of money, and I don't even have a day job. I'm a starving artist, right? So it's kind of like do we spend more time raising more money, which means the movie's going to take longer to get done? It's like everyone wants it now, 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 like next summer, and it's like, well, like we have to figure out where that's coming from, right? And we do crowdfunding, we have a fan base, but it's like it's never enough, right? And so we're right now we're kind of figuring out like how do we do this? Because the last one, like it's amazing that they came out as good as they did because we were going so fast. We just didn't have the money or the resources to spend days on it. I think we spent 18 days on part two, which was like quite a bit longer than the first movie,
Mhm.
but it was still like we do one take and move on. Like we're just flying through it, and it's just very stressful for everyone. I would love to just have enough money to be like, you know what, we could take our time with this and try to make it as good as possible instead of just like let's hope for the best and just go crazy. Which I love keeping that momentum. It makes it fun, but it's just like especially with the third one, it's like
Yeah.
it could backfire eventually where we're just going so fast that we screw it up and then we have to do reshoots or something. So
Yeah.
um, I want to take time to like make the best movie possible, but I want to shoot it next summer. But it's just like we're already through this summer, and it's like, well, crap, that's less than a year away now. So um, yeah, so we're trying to figure out. It's like, how do we raise money? We've been brainstorming different things that we could do. Um, to basically get enough money to make the third one because it's like I don't want to have to do it on such a
Yeah.
non-existent budget this time. But overall, like they've been like if I never made another movie, if I never did anything the rest of my life,
Hmm.
these are still pretty big achievements. I can always say like I made those things. They were very, very hard. We put a lot of effort into it and they turned out well. People love them. So it's like no one could ever take that away from us that we made that, right? And even like I'm sure Elizabeth's gonna have like a long, very successful career. She'll probably end up doing really huge things that will like dwarf Grotesque in how popular they are. But people will always be like, yeah, she was at Grotesque like way back when, right? Like
Yeah, she's
they'll
Mildred.
remember that. So it's kind of nice that that we just made that kind of mark on the world.
All right, so I'm going to ask you some round questions.
Oh,
So
yeah.
these are just going to be quick questions. You can give a quick answer if you want. Nirvana or Pearl Jam?
Pearl Jam.
Oh, okay, a Pearl Jam guy. You know what? I
Not
would
not
have.
not by a lot. Like they're
Mhm.
close to a tie. I just like Pearl Jam's been around longer and Nirvana kind of ended in the 90s, so
Yeah, you know what? I was going to guess that you were a Pearl Jam guy too. Toilet paper roll. Business in the front or party in the back?
that shouldn't even be a question. Front, the way it's supposed to go.
All right, hanging over the top. Excellent.
Yeah.
Ninjas or pirates?
Ooh, pirates. Yeah, I like both, but pirates.
Okay, pirates. Excellent. Here's this one's going to be a controversial one for you. Marvel or DC?
Oh, I'm gonna have to say DC. I don't know.
Yeah.
A few years ago it might have been different, but Marvel's. I kind of started to be angry with them, and it's like, you know what? I'm just gonna go with DC out of
All right.
yeah.
All right. Favorite adult beverage of choice?
I don't drink anymore, but when I did, Jägermeister.
Jagermeister. Okay. Excellent. I think it tastes like medicine, but
Yeah.
greatest horror villain of all time.
Ooh. Like if I'm not allowed to say Mildred Moyer, I
You
would
can say Mildred Moyer if you want, but okay, number two then.
number. I'd go. I don't know. Freddy Krueger, I think, is a good choice.
You know, I was gonna guess you're a Freddy Krueger guy too, because
Yeah.
Mildred's got a little bit of Freddy Krueger in her.
Yeah, you got that dark humor. Yeah.
Yeah, yeah. What's your favorite Pokemon?
I honestly, other than Pikachu, I can't even name a single Pokemon.
Okay,
I'm not. I'm my buddy Adam's big into that. I know nothing about it other than yellow cartoon guy.
okay. What's your favorite video game of all time?
Ooh, jeez. GoldenEye, I guess. Good choice.
GoldenEye. All
Yeah.
right, yeah, excellent. I used to play that with my brother.
So did I.
Brandon, thank you so much for being here. Your movies are fantastic. Your stories are creative and funny is important, even in horror. You're out there representing Edmonton and Canada as a whole, which is important now on the world stage. Um, are there any upcoming projects that you'd like to plug for the audience?
Yeah, like we had I'm Haunted 4 and I'm Haunted 5 both premiered today that we're recording this on Found TV. Found TV is a streaming service of all found footage movies, and it's available exclusively on that platform. So definitely head over there. I think you can watch it. It's like free with ads, or if you sign up, you can watch them without ads. But the reviews are coming in today, and so far they're pretty much all positive. So
Oh,
people seem
perfect.
to like that. And other than that, I don't think I have a lot of stuff I'm working on,
Okay,
but things are in the works. But those are the main ones that are, brand fresh new. So maybe start with the I'm Haunted series.
perfect. And before I let you go, what's your favorite movie of all time?
Ooh, it's kind of I'd say somewhere around Godfather, Heat, and The Exorcist. They kind
Okay,
of me usually Heat and Godfather are kind of like tied for first place, but it's really hard to pick. But I think those are decent choices.
well, thank you so much for being here and joining me on this interview, and I hope we can do it again in the future.
Absolutely. Yeah, this was fun. Let's do it again.
All right.